I'm Jeff Pringle. I've been a swordsmith for 20 years. For a long while, I was a knife maker, and then I realized what I really wanted to do was make swords.
It feels so much denser than normal iron.
Yeah, no, it has this extra weight because it's like from outer space.
It does, totally. All right. So that's what I want to make a sword out of.
Okay.
Have you worked with meteorite before?
Yes.
What are the inherent difficulties in working with meteorite iron as opposed to steel or regular iron?
The concept of making a sword out of a meteorite is amazingly wonderful. We've done it for thousands of years. But I also thought it was a crazy idea because meteorites are a pain in the butt to forge. If you look at this cut surface, you can see these fractures. Mm-hmm. You know, this thing has been rattling around the asteroid belt for the last 4 billion years.
Right.
And so it's been bumping up against other asteroids, and that tends to make a lot of fractures.
We can minimize those fractures by forging this iron-rich meteorite into steel. But that process has its own challenges.
Since meteorites are low in carbon, they need to be blended with other metals to become an effective tool. They're prone to not want to stick to other things because of the high nickel content.
That's a problem we hope to solve by adding a carbon-rich piece of metal into the equation.
Fabulous. In order to make a tool out of this meteorite iron, we need some other kinds of steel involved in the process. And that's where this chunk of tool steel comes in. I am tack welding the meteorite to this piece of tool steel, and this will be the handle by which we get it into the forge in order to get it hot, and it'll also be the metal that we mix with the meteorite iron in order to make a suitable blade.
To minimize the meteorite's high nickel content and its inherent problems with fracturing, we're only using this chunk of it to make our sword.
Well, it's not pretty, but I think this might do.
This we can work with.
All right. Where to next?
Into the forge.
To be super clear, we will be forging this metal, not smelting. The process of smelting extracts metal from ore by melting it down. Forging is the process of making or shaping a metal object by heating it in a fire under extremely high temperatures to make it malleable. In this case, the temperature we're looking for is a searing 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit.
So it's time for one last look at the meteorite. Remember that its surface describes billions of years and an untold countless number of collisions with other pieces of matter, both large and small. It's time for this meteorite to tell a new story. The process of turning this meteorite into a sword begins right now.
Slide it in there on top of that brick.
Oh, on top of it. Okay.
There we go.
Step one will be to use a combination of heat and force to fuse our meteorite onto the piece of tool steel it's sitting on top of. This is easier said than done.
We'll see how it goes. That's the wonderful thing about meteorites. You don't really know what you're going to get until you get it under the hammer.
We've added the heat. Now comes the force.
Oh, see? Yep. That's exactly what I said. Doesn't want to stick.
As Jeff suspected, the meteorite, with its high nickel content, doesn't want to stick to other metals. But fortunately, our master swordsmith has a solution.
The shape is just too awkward to handle with the hand hammer. So we're going to try and convince it with the power hammer.
I call my biggest hammer the convincer. The power hammer is a brand new tool on me. I have known about them, but I have never used one. Whoa! Wow!
Now you're stuck. So now we have the meteorite stuck to the tool steel.
Okay.
So now we just have to turn these two pieces into a nice uniform piece of metal that we can fold so the meteorite is fully incorporated into the sword.
And that means now I get to play with the power hammer.
This is a machine you can get into trouble with very, very quickly. I'm kind of approaching it the same way I do a table saw, and that is with a mix of admiration and abject terror. It's looking like a really nice flat bar now. It's radically different from the chunk we welded.
Yeah.
Now that we have the meteorite flattened into a single bar of metal, it's back into the forge, and it's time to start folding. Folding steel is the process of repeatedly heating, hammering, and literally folding the steel over and over again. This process improves the strength of the steel by evenly distributing its impurities.
I am fascinated by what a time-intensive process this is. All right, ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
We repeat this cycle, heating, hammering again and again until the folded layers of metal merge into one solid block.
Ta-da.
And then we do it all over again until Jeff judges all the materials are as blended as they can be.
Looking at the edge now, you can see it's cooling down completely uniformly.
Yep, that's beautiful.
It's now a solid piece of half meteorite.
This was exhausting, yet I'm keenly aware of how much easier modern tools and technology have made my work compared to the tools and methods of ancient sword makers. They toiled without modern blast furnaces, and they didn't have power hammers. They didn't even have as clear an understanding as we do of physics and metallurgy. Yet they still managed to create gleaming, strong swords, terrible weapons of extraordinary beauty. Mine won't be used to wage war or in defense of any kingdom, I imagine, but it still needs to do the work of a useful tool, and we still have a long way to go.
Now our meteorite iron has been mixed with enough steel to be a proper sword ingot. It's time to draw it out to sort of taper it from the front all the way to its end.
This is starting to look pretty good.
Do you want to try it out?
Sure. All right. It is entertaining to me how much finesse it requires to operate this like 4,000-pound machine that moves a 200-pound hunk of steel 4 times per second to hammer molten metal. And yet finesse is totally the name of the game.
It's starting to become a sword.